how are interest rates tied to property prices, and why do investors watch the Fed so closely on changes in rates?
Gotcha. So I think the first, it's a great question. And I think it's a good place to start. I think the first thing it's important for most folks, particularly who are looking to get into commercial real estate, especially if they are coming from another industry. Real estate is very unique in that it is almost entirely financed and structured based on debt. And so a typical multifamily deal, for example, where say there's 100% of the capital stack, 80% is financed typically by a lender, by a first mortgage. And then, sometimes more. We've had a couple deals where that's higher, but typically 80% is fairly common. And then the other 20% is either a combination of equity, preferred equity, or some other type of structure. So, getting back to your question, when you have 80% of anything being financed, based on interest rates, it's highly leveraged to interest rates, and that's why if you take a longer-term view, back when I started in the late '90s, our first deals were getting financed at about 8.5%. Today, we just literally today locked in a new structured refinance that we're in the process of doing at 2.5%. So if you go from 8.5% to 2.5%, that's 600 basis points. What that really means is that it's cheaper to finance, and that the same existing cash flows of a given piece of real estate are worth more because it's cheaper to finance. And so that's why the relationship between interest rates and prices are directly and almost exclusively inversely related, meaning as rates go up, values tend to go down.
Right, that makes a lot of sense. So in layman's terms, if rates start to go up, then the NOI is going to drop, the free cash flow will drop because you're going to be paying more to the bank to borrow that money. There'll be less profits available for the investor. So those things just, move in inverse directions, essentially, is what you're saying, right?
Correct. I'd say it's inversely related, and because so much of it is so often financed by debt, it literally, it's one of the most levered industries to interest rates that's out there.
Right. Okay. What insights can you share for those looking to start to invest in commercial real estate properties?
Wow, where to begin? I think, I'll start with this. I think especially for younger companies and younger folks going into the industry, and you'll see this as a running theme with what we're doing in operations now. The industry, it's always changing, but I would say, especially post-COVID, the rate of acceleration and the rate of disruption within every asset class is really completely bifurcated. And when I say bifurcated, I mean you can have similar asset classes in different parts of the country behaving differently. You can have different assets within a given city, in the same city, Miami, Florida, where we are. Multifamily has never been better. Office and retail, not so much. And so I think getting a handle and really deciding on where you want to specialize is probably more important now than it's ever been. Because up until a couple of years ago, if rates were down, every asset class went up. And conversely, if rates were up, every asset class went down. That's beginning to change, even though, per the prior question, interest rates are incredibly important, but almost as important now is really the nature of the asset and whether it's disruptible. And I think that's becoming a key issue in how we're operating.
Right, great. This content was created by commercialrealestate.com. Access our community, investment databases, training, and live events by visiting www.commercialrealestate.com.